Bryce Weech here, bryceweechmusic.com. Be sure to hit like, subscribe, and click that notification bell. Well, it's been a while since I've posted anything here on YouTube, and mostly because I've had kind of Mr. Technical Difficult moments here. Haven't been able to really get anything out. Every time I go to try to record something, something breaks, something doesn't work, all kinds of problems. So I think I've got the setup back now, so we're doing pretty good. I got my buddies here, Cameron, Sloan, and Ferris hanging out. And my new 3D printer, well, old new 3D printer that I just built. So hoping to play around with that here pretty soon too. Anyways, wanted to do a little bit of a dive into how I got roped into playing percussion and drums in musical theater for about the last year now. So here goes. I'm going to share some pictures. I think I'll just talk through showing some of these pictures that I've got. I think the last video maybe I posted was probably my rig rundown for Putnam County Spelling Bee. So yeah, but it's been a while. So anyways, let me see here. I'll switch screens. There we go. And let's see, I'll put this back down here. That's for later. Let's see here. There we go. I'm just a little behind the scenes there. And anyways, let's minimize that. Yeah. All right, so story and pictures here. So last year, about this time, so in February, it was actually early February. The shows were in March. I got asked, let me switch back here. I got asked to fill in, they call it sub. I've learned this in the interim for on Broadway drums and stuff. They call it subbing. So anyways, I was asked to sub for Cinderella the musical, February 21st through March 2nd. And I subbed on March 1st for that show. Was asked by my old choir director from high school, Christy Smith, now Ronigan, to maybe sub for a day that their drummer couldn't do it. Their drummer was going to see Hamilton, actually, that day, which is pretty cool. I'm a big fan of Hamilton and thought that was pretty neat. And kind of scared a little bit, too, because it had been about 25 years or so since I had actually read sheet music at all. It's kind of like riding a bike, you know, you, especially with drums, you don't really lose anything. Once you know it, you can pretty much get back into it pretty easily. At least I found a lot of it just came right back. I did spend pretty much all 4 years of high school playing drums for a jazz band and percussion in the band and marching band and the jazz choirs as well. So I was pretty used to reading a lot of this stuff. I did do a couple of the musicals in high school as well, on drum set, but a lot of that was actually, it was musical. One of them was a musical that the high schoolers actually wrote, that we actually wrote, so I was just playing my own music, or, you know, making stuff up along with that one. But for this, this was Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella, and this is the kind of music that you would get for that. This is, I can't tell, oh, this is overture, so this is just the beginning stuff, so, which is usually nice. The overtures in musicals typically contain snippets of all the songs together, so you kind of get a taste of what's going on through that. And so yeah, I got roped into that kind of by chance, which was pretty cool. My daughter was in the production, so and also so was Christy. She was the madame in it as well, and she had the musical director there, you know, flag me down and ask if I could sub for a day. So they got me copies of the sheet music, and I kind of nervously read through a lot of it, listened to a lot of the recordings, the Broadway recordings of the show, familiarized myself with the music, and did sit in with their sits probe and that sort of thing. So if you're not familiar with musicals and the whole theater procedure. Typically, the orchestra or band will have 2 or 3 rehearsals prior to the show. Typically, everyone's reading the music anyway, so it's not like the actors that have to go through and learn the scenes and choreography and all that stuff. We're just reading the music and playing it. So generally, there's a few rehearsals. The director will come in and find sour spots and things like that, or they'll change, like on drums, it'll be, hey, use a different cymbal for that, or let's drop this part where you would normally hit something. They'll drop something like that. Then we have what's called a sitz probe, and that is where all the actors get together. They come in and we go run through the whole score typically, or at least anything where there's singing involved, and they kind of figure out timing and how things are going to work that way. And get familiar with playing with the band rather than a recorded track. What they would normally do during rehearsals, either a recorded track or they're just playing with somebody playing the score on a piano along with whatever they're doing. So that's kind of the procedure there. There's a sitz probe, and then we'll do a couple more rehearsals after that. Typically just, per week. That's usually about a month before the show starts. They'll do the sitz probe. And then there's maybe 1 or 2 rehearsals, every other week or whatever, with just the orchestra. And then there's a tech week, which is typically the right up until the opening, the week before, like a Friday opening. And the band will come in during the last 2 performances, because they'll run cue to cues, lighting stuff, the choreography and dancing. So the whole orchestra doesn't have to be there for that. And then the last 2 days, they'll run the whole thing, the whole shebang through. Hopefully, I've been a part of some of them where we actually didn't get through the whole things before those. And the opening night was like the first time you would run through the entire performance. But again, this is community theater. This isn't like off-Broadway or fancy like Fifth Avenue or Paramount productions or anything like that. So. But that's typically how it works. So that's just a rundown of how typically the timing goes for that. So anyways, I sat in with the sitz probe and the tech week just to listen to how the music was going. I didn't actually get to play. The actual drummer was playing for those, but basically, I think this is actually a picture of me sitting there in the theater with my sticks, just kind of like figuring out when I have to switch between mallets, when do I have to go back to sticks, when I use brushes. If there's a triangle part, you got to pick up the triangle beater and hit it and do all that kind of stuff. So pretty fun. I was a little bit nervous because, again, it had been 25, almost 30 years since I had actually read music. But, again, kind of came right back. And then this is the only picture I got of that whole thing. I didn't get a picture of the setup or anything like that, but that's my folks and my wife and daughter up there watching the show, and that's from me down in the pit, down in the orchestra pit, which is usually right in front of the stage. So that's the only picture I got of that production. But anyways, that was a blast. It was really fun being able. Well, actually, I think that might have been the last show. So I think I did play March 2nd because I did have to pack up the drummer's drums for him and handed them off to him the next day or a couple days later. On that. So yeah, that's right. I played the last show on that. So anyways, what did we do next? So then I got asked to do percussion for a show called the 25th Annual Putnam County Spelling Bee. And this was a Theater Arts Guild production here in the Valley. The prior one was the college putting it on. But this is the TAG, what we call TAG, Theater Arts Guild here in the Valley. Kind of a fun one. This one had drum set was the main, percussion. And then in this picture, I'm actually, I zoom in. Yeah, so I actually went through and I started writing down, what are all the different instruments that are in this score? And what am I going to have to, I'm going to have to figure out how to, get these, either acquire these or get them set up. So what I decided on was actually setting up my keyboard here for stuff like the xylophone. I didn't use vibes or glockenspiel. I think is mostly what I used on here is glockenspiel. Xylophone and vibes, we just kind of ignored those parts for the most part. And then on these pads, I set up stuff like the triangle, woodblock. What else would I have here? So yeah, this is going through just writing like in order what are the different instruments that I would have to use in this score. Timpani, G&D. I think I did actually end up putting timpani on a couple of these keys as well, which is pretty fun. So kind of getting a little tech heavy on that. The program I use for that is called MainStage. It's an Apple product. Really cool product. Highly recommend for anybody that uses Apple and produces music or plays music for live. If anything, it's like $30, and if anything, you get all of these great samples with it. Really high quality percussion. A lot of like 5 or 6 different drum sets that sound really good. A bunch of keyed instruments. You get some Rhodes pianos and stuff like that. Pretty big library of instruments for like $30. It's a really, really good deal, and I had a lot of fun setting it up. I don't know if I have anything on here. I don't think I have it on there. You can go back and look at my rig rundown on this, and it kind of shows how I set up the pads and everything. So that was pretty fun. Yep, got set up here. This is I was taking a picture of this because this is kind of like I think this is an for one and two and three and four. And so this is like I don't know. Kind of used to playing in punk bands and stuff when I was younger, and this is sort of the vibe of the punk rock beats that I used to play. And it's kind of funny to have it be a gospel beat on here, and kind of made it a little easier to play than I think it normally would have been. So repurposing my kit. So yeah, for this production, I'm using my drum set, and boy howdy, I replaced the drum heads on it, and this is the stuff that came off of it. This is about 20 years or so. I think these Evans heads that I had on there is probably about 20 years worth of just stick shavings and stuff dropped in the between the heads there. Whew, boy, that was quite interesting getting these drums cleaned up and put on there. There's my floor tom. There's a a ton of shavings in there. Pretty amazing. All right, and this is the rig that I had set up for the show. So I did have my glockenspiel set up on these keys, triangle, bongos, woodblock, that kind of thing, and then also replicated on these, which made it a little bit easier to play. This particular production called for, and this is MainStage over here, and this is actually the keyboard player, the second keys keyboard player was running MainStage as well, and he was running stuff for just all kinds of different sounds that augmented the normal keys that were being played. Definitely using some gaffer's tape on the toms to calm them down a little bit. They were a little ringy with these new heads on there, but ended up sounding pretty good. A lot of fun. And there we are. There I am, getting ready to play. There I am again. This is my journey of playing. And then one of the cool things of getting to play with these guys is just getting to know a lot of the actors, a lot of people that bumped into before, but then you kind of get to know them and you become friends, or at least valley acquaintances. A lot of these people ended up being in other productions I worked on as well, and they've been in stuff before. My daughter's into the community theater and has been in a few productions, so I already knew a lot of these folks. But it was really fun to get to come in and be part of the show, and be contribute to the show in the fashion of percussion and whatnot. So these are all the folks that were in that show. Got my pictures with them all. And there's the producer Mason and Quinn, the band director, So grateful for him for getting a hold of me to be on this project. It was a lot of fun. The way the rehearsals went for this one was we started, we rehearsed up in Bellingham, which is about a half-hour drive for me. And I think we played maybe every other week for a couple of months, maybe 6 or 7 rehearsals or so beforehand, maybe a couple more than that. And then we did the sits probe and all that stuff. Man, I can't remember where we did that at. Huh. Anyways, did the sits probe, and maybe that was at the Lincoln. And then, Tech Week and all that good stuff, kind of the same procedure for that. So, and that was in late June was when I did that. So I went from, March, parlayed into late June. We rehearsed in May. Yeah, May and June. And then the show ran for maybe 2 weeks. I think it was 2 weeks during that time. A lot of fun, really fun show. I didn't actually get to see it because I was behind the curtains. So like, if I go back here, I'm behind this curtain the whole time. So I didn't really get, I got to see a couple of the people on the stage. So yeah, it was funny. It sounded funny, but I didn't really get to see any of the physical comedy of what was going on. In all this too, part of this journey has been meeting other people. So this is Simeon and Dan. Simeon played bass in the Cinderella show, and kind of asked, "Hey, would you want to play some jazz music?" And I was all for it, playing some trio style stuff. So that's been a lot of fun. We got together a few times over the summer, had a good time, playing some jazz standards, pulling maybe some older ones out too. A lot of fun. Like to get back with those guys again. It's been a while. And then the next production I got asked to do was Evil Dead the musical. And really, I think I got asked because the drummer that they had in mind ended up being the lead in this play, and perfectly cast as the lead in this play. It was perfect. So anyways, this was kind of the same deal. Very much, just a straight rock. This band was really just, for Putnam County, it was like, a keyboard. We had a clarinet player that played an electric clarinet, which was playing cello, which was kind of wild. So cello player, a woodwinds who did flute, English horn, saxophone, and then the second keyboardist. So a little more orchestration going on with that. Evil Dead, it's a straight rock band. Bass, guitar, keyboards, and drums. And actually, it sounded like there was actually no bass written in the score. So that was actually, band director Quinn added bass to the mix. Thankfully, because it probably would have been a little bit weird without having the bass. It really drives that. So that's just an example of one of the pages there. More refurbishing the kit. Pretty much have had this set up for the last 20 years or so, where I've had to put duct tape on on the floor tom mounts because the screws stripped out years and years ago. So I've basically been relying on, if I had to adjust the height of one of these, I had to slap some more tape on there. That's why that black gaffer's tape is on there. This stuff ended up being rock hard. This is like duct tape from 30 years ago that's just caked on there, maybe 20 years ago. That's just caked on there. Ended up being kind of a challenge to get off of there. But so yeah, that's one of the mounts that didn't have a screw in it anymore, so I couldn't really tighten anything down on it. Bought a replacement, which didn't fit, so had to drill out the hole a little bit wider just to make the new one fit. And boy howdy, that drum set used to be white, but now it's kind of a cream color. It's probably from being in smoke-filled bars and just over the years getting dirty from traveling around. That's kind of, it's old. This drum set's about 30 years old now. 30? Yeah, 30 years old now. So yellowed quite a bit. Anyway, so there they are before, and boom, there we are after. Now I can actually adjust my floor tom to different heights and everything, and it's really nice. Worked out really well. There we are at rehearsal, playing that old drum set, and a lot of fun again. Straight up rock, very cool. There's me playing that same drum set back in high school, and much whiter when it was new, way back in the day. That's my Pearl export. Yeah, probably from 93, probably 94 maybe. Was when I bought that. And there we are at the historic Lincoln Theater. This is we actually got to play down beside the stage for this show. Really interesting because the floor slants there, so I was kind of at a weird angle the whole time, but got used to it. Was pretty fun. Straight up, there we go. That's getting ready to play. Actually did purchase a set of in-ear monitors for this show. Kind of getting along there with progressing technology. This one was nice. I didn't have to have main stage or anything like that. It's just pretty much just straight drums. A lot of fun to play. There we are with my setup. And this is, let's see, I'm going to mute this. So pretty standard setup that I had here. Tucked into a corner. Drummer's always shoved in the corner. But yep, there it is. Pretty standard setup. I don't know why that's being all weird, but yeah. That was that. There they are, getting something set up there with a giant ladder at the Lincoln. And me with my in-ears. And that's during one of the shows. Again, a lot of fun. Packed audiences for that one. People really dug it. They had a splatter zone in this one, which was squirted fake blood all over people in the front row there. Didn't get any on my drum set, but the guitar player got a big squirting on his white amp, which was pretty funny. He called it kind of a badge of honor, battle scar, which was pretty cool. And there we are. There's the band themselves. Anyways, yeah, and there's one of my outfits was a tribute to Michigan with Bell's Brewing shirt. Kind of an inside joke. I had one person that actually came up to me and understood it. He goes, "Hey, are you from Michigan?" I was like, "Nope," but I knew that this was a kind of a nod to. If you've seen the show, you know the guy's from Michigan. And there's me. That was the Halloween show. It was me and my Don Johnson get up for Halloween, and there again is us playing at the end. I did actually have to tape my cymbals a little bit here. The sound guy was picking up a little too much with the cymbals. Had to adjust my playing a little bit, really hold back on those because it was really affecting the mix quite a bit. So there's that. And that brings us to Little Mermaid. So I was actually asked to do Oklahoma back in, December, I guess it would have been, maybe November. But I was going to be out of town during some of the performances, so wasn't able to actually play in Oklahoma, which was just ran here February, 14th through the 26th or something like that. So wasn't able to actually make it to play in that one, which is kind of a bummer. It's Rodgers and Hammerstein. That stuff's kind of fun to play. And being roped back into it, I've been kind of excited to play with these things. So the next one is The Little Mermaid. And so that one's coming up in the beginning of April, first half of April, I think. There's quite a few shows, which is pretty cool. And yeah, so starting to get into it. So this is I started going tech heavy on this because there's quite a few instruments that are on it. So this is my main stage setup. I got actually a new pad here with 16 16 pads would give me a lot of options as far as being able to trigger things, rather than having to go buy something like a chime tree or mark tree, and triangle and stuff like that. I really don't like having to go between sticks and like a triangle beater or like mallets and stuff like that to do cymbal rolls. So I'm trying a little bit different way there. So anyways, that's been my journey in musical theater. It's been a blast, and it's been about a year. So I think March 2nd. This is March 7th now. I'm recording this. It's been about a year, and just getting back into it and reading the music again. I've kind of picked back up on reading some, regular snare rudiments and things like that. Really figuring out how to read those notes faster, so I can do some sight reading a little bit better. But if you look at some of this music, like if I go back, let's go back. Back to like this, the drum stuff largely is just these repeats, right? It's like I'm doing that's a cymbal scrape over and over again, and then it's just time. Like they don't even lay out what I'm supposed to do, right? It's just a rock ballad. It's just slash 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 slash. Like what does that even mean? Small fill, and then to the right. Kind of cool, to be able to sort of loosely make up what you want to do. You know what a rock ballad is. You're going to be able to play it. So that's kind of how that's been. The Little Mermaid music is a little bit different. It's more orchestrated. Some of it's, it's got kind of the calypso stuff, which is cool. A lot of different types of songs, which is fun. Same with Evil Dead. There was a lot of different types of songs. It was, there was a samba. There was a tango. There's, this rock ballad. Definitely all kinds of weird different things, like a disco song. So a lot of fun. Anyways, that's been my journey for the past year. Sorry I haven't been posting any videos because just been A, busy, and B, Mr. Technical Difficult here with anytime I was going to try to do anything, the camera would stop working or stuff would freeze or the microphones wouldn't work. But I think I'm dialed in now. So next one, go ahead and check out. I'm going to do a little bit of an office hours, kind of admin hours drummer on how I'm getting my rig set up for Little Mermaid. I was going to go really tech heavy, and I think I've figured out a way that I can simplify things down to just this sample pad that I have. But that'll be the next video. Go ahead and check that one out. Remember, if you like this kind of stuff, be sure to hit like, subscribe, and click that notification bell. Till next time.